These games have absolutely nothing in common, and somehow I played all of them in the last 6 weeks. No agenda, no weird ads, just games. This time around, a chase sequence in Resident Evil 9 that I genuinely did not expect, Legends mode in Ghost of Tsushima, which I probably should have played sooner, a demo for a weird game called Darwin's Paradox, Blood Dragon where I go searching for a trophy I missed more than a decade ago, and The Suffering on PS2, which is exactly as unhinged as it sounds. We're actually going to start with Resident Evil 9 because if I don't talk about this chase scene first, I'm going to explode. So everyone right now is talking about the big moments in Resident Evil 9. The boss fights, the late game reveals, all that stuff. But the moment that completely sold me on the game actually happens less than an hour in. It's the second time you play as Grace, and you wake up in the Rhodes Hill Chronic Care Center, you rip yourself out of this upside down blood collecting IV, and suddenly you're just alone. No weapons, no idea where you are, no explanations. Just a dark medical facility with flickering lights and locked doors. And at first it feels like classic Resident Evil. You're opening drawers, you're checking rooms, finding keys, restoring power, very familiar survival horror pacing. But then you find a lighter. And that's kind of when the whole sequence changes, because suddenly the area becomes about light. You're using this tiny flame to see through completely dark rooms. The shadows are moving everywhere. The lights are flickering. The environment just feels unstable. And the game starts doing something really clever here. You start hearing massive noises in other rooms. Lights begin swinging like something just passed through the area. Objects that were in one place are suddenly somewhere else. The game is telling you that something is moving through the building with you, but it just won't show it to you. Then you find a little children's book sitting on a table, and it talks about a monster that can't enter the light. So now every dark hallway becomes extremely terrifying, and the game keeps slowly escalating. You get a random jump scare where a lamp crashes down on you. Grace's breathing starts getting heavier. Thunder's cracking outside the building. Some areas are now completely pitch black. Then, out of nowhere, you finally find a body, and the game reveals what's been stalking you. As you look at the body, a huge hand slowly slides into frame, grabs the body away, and just starts eating it. Cue the dramatic music, cue the big cutscene. It all just happens. And just as quick, you're snapped back into gameplay with only one option: run. You sprint back toward the only safe place you remember seeing earlier, the light. Grace is breathing harder, the camera's shaking slightly, thunder's going off outside, and you hear these massive footsteps moving behind you. But the game doesn't force you to look back, which honestly makes it even worse, because your brain fills in that gap. Exactly how close is this thing? Eventually, you make it back into light and realize it actually worked. The creature can't enter the light. But now, the game has changed the rules. You still have to keep exploring the building, which means leaving that light again. And now, every little hallway becomes this tense hide-and-seek moment where you're listening for footsteps, watching the shadows, and hoping the lighter is enough. And again, it's not. The entire sequence happens within the first hour of gameplay. And that's the moment where I realized the pacing, the atmosphere, and the design of Resident Evil were really working. And it completely convinced me that, yeah, I'm in for this one. Okay, let's take it down a notch. Let's, make it a bit quieter. Ghost of Tsushima Legends. The multiplayer mode I completely ignored. So with Ghost of Yote's Legends mode coming out soon, I knew I had to finally try this game. I had just finished Ghost of Yote recently, so the timing felt perfect. And honestly, for most of the experience, Legends is great, it's amazing, but the ending of it kind of fizzles out. And eventually I learned that the reason it fizzles out is because I didn't grind enough. So apparently if you don't level yourself high enough, you'll basically never reach the final boss, which explains why the whole thing left me feeling like I'd missed something. But let's rewind a bit. Ghost of Tsushima Legends is a free co-op multiplayer mode inspired by Japanese mythology. Instead of playing as Jin, the main character from the game, you and a friend or more take on the role of legendary warriors and go through a series of story missions that slowly build up in difficulty and amazingness. There's 9 story missions total, and they actually feel like completely new environments designed specifically for this mode. And playing through them with a friend is what I was hoping it would be. Clearing bases together, coordinating abilities, and slowly figuring out new mechanics on the fly. Some missions even introduce small puzzle-like mechanics. For example, one level requires you to power your sword up with a specific color before you can damage the enemy of that color. So you're constantly adjusting your strategy mid-fight, which keeps things really interesting. There's also the stealth that you get to do with friends, and I love stealth, so I was really happy with that. And even the stories themselves of the missions are pretty cool. They start kind of tame, but they lean heavily into Japanese folklore and supernatural mythology, which gives the missions a really distinct tone compared to the main campaign. But also overall, they feel a little bit short, because just as things start getting interesting, the mission ends. And unfortunately, the game doesn't really help itself with that because of how the leveling system works. Early on, the game basically forces you to play on easy difficulty until it decides you've leveled up enough to try medium. The problem is easy even for a level 0 character. So you're essentially running through missions, stealth isn't worth it because you can just destroy everyone instantly, and you're just killing everyone in a couple hits, so why would you wait around, right? And while that can be fun at first, it makes everything feel less tense than it probably should. So overall, it is a really cool co-op mode with great ideas and a fun mythology-focused story, but essentially it's way too easy until you're supposed to grind right at the end to get the last mission, and then that becomes hard. It feels like it just stops, you know? It's exactly how my run ended, and honestly, did I miss something here? Or is that really how this game is supposed to be played? Because it feels like difficulty and grinding ideas are all kind of all over the place and just wrong, to be honest. It makes me really curious to see how Yote's Legends mode comes out, but you know, who knows? Tell me in the comments if I'm playing this incorrectly or if it's just like that. Alright, from a game that everyone knows to one that almost nobody does. Darwin's Paradox. It's weird, and I kinda loved it. A game that wears its inspiration on its sleeve and seems pretty proud of it, to be honest. Darwin's Paradox, published and licensed by Konami, has you playing as what I can only describe as a Metal Gear Solid-inspired squid. And it doesn't hide the influence at all. It's got the headbands, it's got the classic alert sounds. Characters are dropping lines about being solid or snaky. At one point, your chief squid boss calls you on the codec system. It's basically a Metal Gear Solid reference game. And after all that, you'd expect it to be a straight up parody, but it's not. They really put in work here, because underneath all the references, it's a really solid stealth puzzle game. Even though the game is 2D, the stealth works surprisingly well. Enemies patrol logically, cameras force you to think about positioning, and the puzzles feel smart without being frustrating, which is honestly a difficult balance to pull off. But what surprised me the most is that the game keeps changing things up. The environments constantly shift, the mechanics slowly evolve, and the story starts building this weird, unfolding alien conspiracy where documents you find are gradually pulling you deeper into the mystery. The game's mechanics even support the momentum. For example, there's an underwater section in the demo. And I hear your groans, but actually because you're a squid, being underwater is one of the best parts of the demo. You move faster, the puzzles change completely, and the level design becomes way more vertical and fluid. It feels like the game's constantly asking, okay, what can we do next? And if you'll remember my Astrobot and Mario Galaxy reviews, they're some of my favorite games. But the moment that really sold me on the game was one puzzle right near the end of the demo. You're pushing a barrel toward the top of the screen while security cameras are directly pointed at it. So the cameras are watching the barrel. But the moment you step out from behind it, you get spotted. And the game doesn't explain the solution, it just lets you fail over and over until you realize you have to jump from one side of the barrel to the other while pushing it forward, constantly staying hidden from the cameras. No hints, no glowing arrows, just figure it out or quit. And honestly, it was refreshing. Maybe I've been playing too many games lately that hold your hand through every puzzle or scream about, freeze the cog from God of War, but it was really satisfying to have a game just trust the player to figure out the whole thing. So far, Darwin's Paradox looks like it might be one of those surprisingly clever indie stealth games that flies under the radar, because it's funny, it's weird, and clearly it's got a lot of love for Metal Gear Solid. So the real question is, are you going to try this? Alright, now from an unknown demo to a classic, well, if you were online in 2013. Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. There's a very specific type of trophy that stays in the back of your mind for years. It's not the impossible ones. It's not even the grindy ones. It's the ones where you almost got that 100% and somehow you still missed it. For me, that game was Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon on the PS3. Because back in 2013, I finished the entire game, but I was still missing one trophy. A trophy called the Only True Stopper, which you unlock by headshotting every enemy type in the game. And honestly, when I finished, I had no idea which enemy I missed. I remember finishing the final mission thinking I had it, carefully lining up headshots on every enemy. The credits rolled. I waited for the trophy to pop. Nothing. Now, normally you just go and replay the levels, except Blood Dragon doesn't have a level select, and of course I didn't make a backup save, which meant the only way to figure it out and find out which enemy I was missing was to replay the entire game again. So I did the only logical thing. I ignored it for 13 years. But recently, I was scrolling through my PSN trophies and I saw it again. That one missing trophy. And suddenly, I needed to know, what enemy did I miss? So I booted up the PS3, loaded Blood Dragon again, and I started the hunt. And going back to this game is honestly amazing. Blood Dragon still looks fantastic. The neon lighting, the ridiculous 80s action movie parody, the synth music, it all still works. But what honestly stands out the most is purely how fun this game is. unlimited sprint, tons of ammo, ridiculous weapons, constant jokes. It's basically Ubisoft making a playable 80s sci-fi action movie and committing to it completely. And the entire time I was playing, there was one question in my head. What enemy type did I miss all those years ago? So this time, I played the game like a sniper. Every enemy, headshot, no exceptions. If something moved, headshot, no exceptions. And eventually I reached the level where it all came together. There's a random zombie section in Blood Dragon. And here's the catch. They're not just zombies. There's 3 different zombie enemy types. You can probably see where it's going, but there's melee zombies, shotgun zombies, and Molotov zombies. And of course, for the trophy, they each count as their own enemy type, which means if you miss just one of them, no trophy. So I lined up the first one, headshot, nothing. The second one, headshot, nothing. And finally, the Molotov zombie running up at me, headshot. And after 13 years, the trophy finally popped. Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon was honestly a joy to jump back into. It's one of those rare games that knows exactly what it is, and it commits to the bit completely. And apparently, it's also the game that taught me a really important lesson. Always make backup saves, which it's not much of an issue nowadays, but it's still a great way to add some extra protection. And finally, we go older, like much older. The Suffering, PS2, 2004, still messed up, still worth it. And my first time playing it was very interesting. Within even the first 30 minutes, the game throws a lot at you. You've got prisoners screaming at each other, guards swearing nonstop, and then out of nowhere, these strange ghost-like monsters suddenly start appearing and slaughtering everyone around you, except for you, of course. And then, when you're trying to make sense of all that, the game starts doing something even weirder. You begin seeing visions of your character's child appearing in random places throughout the prison. No explanation, just these brief, weird moments that make you start questioning what's actually happening. Then, out of nowhere, the game introduces a morality system, twice, in the span of about 30 minutes. So it's pretty clear the game plans something strange to do with this. Maybe it's, extra endings or something, but I don't know. The moment that really sold me on the game happens early on, when you meet up with one of the prison guards. Your character's name is Torque, and as you're moving through the prison, something strange starts happening. The game, or voices in your head, start speaking to you. And on the left side of the headphones, your good voice tells you to trust the guard that you just met. Work together, survive. And then from the right side, another more evil voice cuts in, telling you kill this guy immediately, get him out of here. And the way the game does this is really simple. You just hear the voices coming from different sides of the room.
Down, Fuck you. Don't let your anger
When I've seen these bastards spawn, I prefer to stay in the dark. Go get a flashlight from the break room down the hall.
But in those 2 seconds, the game destabilizes the situation. Something's clearly wrong inside this character's head. Something's wrong with you. And the game keeps stacking moments like that. At one point, a guard says, "Hey, there's a way out over here, follow me." So you turn around and you immediately watch a dead cop get dragged through a grate behind you. No warning, just random scary things happening. And then there's this strange ghost-like figure that keeps appearing. Sometimes they're killing people, sometimes they just stand there and watch you. It's unsettling. Honestly, the more you play, the more the game leans into this supernatural and psychological horror element. It's giving me Silent Hill vibes, but I love Silent Hill. But, maybe this prison's not just a prison. It might be some kind of guilt thing or whatever. And throughout the game, you hear these strange monologues about Torque's past and slowly start getting glimpses of what might have happened the day his family died. You know you're here because you killed them, air quotes, but it makes me wonder if the morality system and those voices in your head tie directly into why he killed them or not. Even could be leading to different endings. The combat itself is PS2 horror game through and through. It even reminds me a lot of the combat in American McGee's Alice, where you're swinging in the open and hoping that hit connects. Sometimes it lands, sometimes it doesn't. There's also this super fun, annoying battery system for your flashlight that Alan Wake and a million other games have all done, and there's also even a pistol you get early on. The aiming kind of sucks on the controller, but they let you switch to first person anytime, and then the aiming becomes good. So the only real fumble is switching from the shiv that kills the regular enemies in 3 hits to the revolver that takes way more, but is a little bit easier to aim and you're in less danger. Also, right before I had to go, I picked up Tommy gun ammo, which had me really excited for future encounters. And then just when I thought I kind of understood the combat, things switched on me right away. You unlock something called insanity mode. Yeah. but it completely changes the game. Whenever your insanity meter's full, you can hit a button and Torque loses control, I guess, even though you've chosen to do it by hitting the button. But he transforms into this massive creature, just like the monsters, and suddenly you're stronger, faster, tearing through enemies, which are also huge monsters at this point. I guess they had to even the playing field, but it adds a lot of personality to the gameplay. It's another mechanic they've done. And after playing a little bit with this game, it's clear why it has the reputation it does. It's gory when it wants to be gory. It's scary when it wants to be scary, and it keeps hinting that something much deeper is going on with Torque and this prison. Honestly, if this is what the first little bit of the game gets, things are probably going to get a lot weirder and a lot better. So, that was the month. A horror chase, a co-op mode I slept on, a demo from a game that might not even exist yet, a neon fever dream chasing of a 13-year-old trophy, and a PS2 game that probably would have broke me if I played it as a kid. A good 6 weeks, actually. If any of these are on your list, or if I'm even completely wrong about one or most of them, tell me below. Genuinely curious what you're playing right now. Next time, I don't know yet. It's kind of the point. Thank you for watching to the end, and I'll see you next time.